Hi guys. My cat might make some noise in the background, fair warning. She's like playing with her toys over there and I'm just chilling out, and I wanted to do like a quick recap of something that I wanted to explain just a little bit further. I'm probably going to link the longer hour-long video that goes into all the details about my changes to this channel and why I've changed it the way I have and blah blah blah. I wanted to quickly just recap and explain something I didn't entirely explain about why I am not doing this channel as a business. And I'm just kind of focusing on it as like a side thing that is not my main thing that I want to do, just to like spiritual exploration stuff and spiritual healing, and to talk about my faith journey. And the reason why I don't do tarot readings for sale anymore, I still believe in things like divination and healing. I talked about that in the longer video. I just want to be very clear that I've never, ever sold Reiki. I do Reiki, but I don't sell it. I've never sold it because I've always felt in my heart that spiritual healing is something that should be free and accessible to everybody. And I know that that's not how all people who do it feel about it, because many people feel like, okay, I put my time and energy into this, I should get paid for it. And that's totally, I understand why you feel that's valid. For me, I've never felt comfortable selling something that I think comes free from God. Why I used to sell tarot readings is because I put a lot of time and energy into really studying like the intricacies of the system and knowing very detailed things about it most people don't know. And the kinds of reports I would give for sale would be like 10-page reports with very, very detailed information on the reading. So I wanted to be paid for my time. I do not do in-depth readings like that anymore. Everybody who's ever had one by me has loved it, but it's just not worth my energy, because I need to kind of protect my energy from the direction that the majority of salesmen in that market and customers in that market seem to be involved in. Customers have come to expect something kind of gimmicky, and they don't appreciate something spiritually in depth anymore. I was lucky to have some good customers. There were a few, like I had like 38 terrific customers, and then after that it all went downhill. So I was like, okay, this is my sign that something, like I've done whatever I needed to do publicly for this, and it's just not worth venturing further into it as a public business thing, because there's something really demonic, frankly, going on within the tarot, divination, psychic industry. And I'll explain what I mean. So like just today, I scrolled past a video where this woman was saying something like to the effect of, she wanted to speak, she was actually like a Christian psychic or something, and she was saying, supposedly Christian psychic, saying that she wanted people to, that God doesn't do anything for you without a contract, and that you need to let his spirit enter you, which is so creepy, because anybody who's involved with spirituality knows that that sounds like a demonic possession, demonic contract type situation. God doesn't work that way. You pray to God when you want help. He doesn't do a contract with you. He speaks things into existence. Demons and human beings do contracts. Now, not all human contracts are inherently evil, though there are plenty of people who will take advantage of you with the fine print. That's just a fact of practical reality. But demonic entities will give you almost certainly all the time bad contracts. And when if you're like going, oh, she believes in demons, she's crazy. Look, if you've ever been with a person who gave you a clearly evil contract, that person was demonically possessed. Now, you can reframe that as just simply immoral or mentally ill, whatever you want to call it. I'm not saying that Casper the Friendly Ghost is going to come spewing out of their mouth. I'm not talking about this like in a supernatural, crazy, unverifiable way. I'm talking about it as like a spiritual reality, that people become emotionally and mentally sick when they engage in these demonic behaviors. Again, if you don't like the word demon, fine, but that's been my experience, that things like that, that there are people selling this idea that you can't just go directly to God to ask for help or your own soul. You have to do some kind of weird contract stuff. And that creeped me the frick out. And there's a lot of stuff like that out there. And then there's also there's more stuff to the tune of, like, I saw Oracle Fest. And look, you might like some of the readers on there, and I'm not saying they're all bad people, but when a group of people become a hive and they all follow the same formula and ideology, and they don't tune things to individual needs and individual situations, and everything becomes formulaic, it's about making a buck. They're not trying to figure out your situation. They're trying to tell you what your situation is based on a formula that they've prescribed for whole groups of people, which will never work for everybody. And people will try to make the script fit because they've been given words that egg them on. So for example, I believe that twin flames and soulmates are a reality. I don't believe that the process for anybody who's experiencing something like that goes the way these cult-like money-making organizations say it does. They all kind of want to say it goes in one similar direction. Everybody's journey has a similar set of steps or something, and I just don't think that's the way it works. I think if you're on a journey like that, your soul will know it. You'll be having the dreams, you'll be having all the divine signs that you can't control, and you'll just kind of figure out your journey for yourself with your person, which is why I don't often talk about it on this channel, because it's something where when you mention it at all, a horde of people come in trying to push a certain agenda, a certain ideology, and I don't really like it. And the last example, the last couple of examples really, you'll see this gimmick a lot within the so-called psychic stuff. And again, if you're an atheist or something and this just doesn't resonate for you, go ahead and click off. I get it. Not everybody's spiritually inclined, and they think anybody who has religiosity or spirituality is crazy. There's billions of people on the planet, and most of them believe in spiritual experiences and things. So call me crazy if you want, but I know I'm not. But there are people who will take people who are having real spiritual experiences, who are trying to spiritually heal or figure things out, and they will push something. They'll do something kind of selfish. Whether they do it for secular reasons, taking advantage of something sacred, like a money-making ploy, or whether they do it for demonic reasons, like serving something evil because they're mentally unwell, like the person talking about spirit contracts and stuff like that. I'm not talking about people who believe in things like karmic contracts with people who you had to close out a lesson or cycle with. I'm talking about people who talk about spirit contracts, who are trying to convince you to make a contract with basically a demonic entity that they're not calling a demonic entity. That's just some creepy shit. Pardon my French, but I hate seeing stuff like that. And once in a while, I'll see people posting things like that, and I'm like, what the fuck, excuse me, is going on in the so-called spiritual community right now? And then you'll get the formulaic stuff like Oracle Fest, where they all do the same kinds of readings. And it's I just don't like it, and I'm not trying to hate on anybody who's into that. I'm just saying at some point you start to notice they all say the same things, and it helps nobody, because you're not you're not really helping anybody figure out their situation. You're like helping them shoo them into your customer base. And when you're trying to create a long-term repeating customer base for something like this, you're not trying to help solve their problems. You're trying to solve your problems, to pay your bills off of somebody else's problems. And I have a problem with that. Almost every reading I ever used to do, it'd be like a 1 or 2 time customer, but they'd recommend me to other people because they enjoyed the reading, and I would try to help them figure out really important stuff. And so I knew it was never going to be a long-term business model, because I'm not trying to create people dependent on me for help. I'm trying to help people, guide them in the direction of how they're going to help themselves, and help each other in their relationships. That's my goal. When I was doing those readings, that is not how most people do it. In fact, I'm seeing lots of ads within the spiritual readings community where they'll say things like, and they'll try to hook you in with like getting to your trauma or anxiety with something like, this person put a hex on your person and that's why they're not talking to you. Call me immediately to take the hex off. And that shit, like, that person's lying to you. Please know this. Don't buy into that sort of thing. Just don't, please. I would never, ever, ever, ever do that to somebody, and I don't recommend you believe people who do that. They're freaking horrible, immoral people taking advantage of something like spirituality and looking for divine signs. I believe divine signs are real. I believe in dream interpretations and looking at tarot and other things, but it has become something that, unfortunately, if you don't know how to manage those energies correctly, it becomes very greedy and demonic. And so that's the big reason I will never sell a tarot reading again, because the market for it has become so grossly corrupt. There's always been some of that, but there used to be like a part of the community that was so interested in just learning how to understand these systems of, Jungian archetypes and other things. And I don't think it's like that anymore, unfortunately. I think the vast majority of people who had a niche like that have been swamped out by crooks, frankly, crooks and demonic people. And it's just so gross. And the way the algorithm works, we all get lumped together in the same thing. So people who are watching content from the gross stuff end up coming to my content, and the energies end up mixing, and it's just, I don't like it. So that's another reason why I will be posting pretty infrequently here. I actually don't want the algorithm to help me out too much. I don't want them booting off my followers, but I don't want them like bringing in a whole bunch of people who don't fit for this channel. And so I'm only going to be posting here when I feel called to talk about something. Yeah. And then like career-wise, this is not going to be my career. I'm going to be focusing, hopefully, inshallah, on my music and anything else that I actually want to do full time. But yeah. So that's my reason for why. Oh, and there was another example. I'll just throw this out here. If you ever see somebody putting like a post out there where they name somebody and you happen to know them, this was one of the reasons why I ended up not selling tarot readings anymore. So there are people who will post a video and this should be completely illegal. I think it might, where they'll post like a video and they'll say the name of somebody, an actual person. It's like calling in John Smith, just using a generic John Smith soulmate. And it's like, why would you do this? Why would you do this? Like, do you know how many people might have that name? Or do you know who you're sending somebody who is going to take you very seriously, even though you're doing a gimmick and you're not doing this to help people spiritually with their relationships. There are readers, like a very tiny handful, who I think are actually doing real spiritual work to try to help people figure out relationships or career stuff or whatever through a spiritual medium. But the vast majority seem to be doing something gross. And And I'm like, why would you think to post a video naming somebody, calling in their soulmate? You've got to watch this reading. Like, how immoral do you have to be to do something like that to the person whose name you put in that video? And it's just, I hate that. I hate that. It's such a disgusting tactic. And all of my customers knew when I had my shop open that what the rules were listed in the product listings. I do not ask for your name or your birthday. You give me an alias. You give me whatever, energy stuff. You can give me a zodiac sign if you want to. I usually don't even need it because I'm tapping into the energy. I don't need you to tell me all of your information. If a psychic reader is asking for your name and birthday, guess what, honey? They're probably looking you up on Google so that they can manipulate you and use information. Be like, how did they know that? It's like, they Googled you because you gave them your personal information. Don't do that. So it's like, all of my readings, I had like a Discord where people would use a username and I would help them by giving them a reading without them having to give me any of their personal information. And they all appreciated what I did for them. Obviously some close friends, I knew their personal information, but everybody else, no. So the vast majority of my customers, I knew nothing about them, and I was able to do a good reading for them because I was just letting, the cards or the signs do the talking. And like my system of knowing what these symbols mean. Most people aren't doing that. They're doing gimmicks nowadays. And so somebody who didn't go through my shop, but went through one of my tip things for my public readings, like, oh, if you liked this free public reading and you want to tip me to keep me doing my work, you can do it here. They went through my tip thing, sent me a big tip, and then emailed me and said, oh, I want to do a reading. And then they started giving me like name and information and trying to talk. And then it's like, oh, I know this person personally that they're talking to me about. Why would they ask me? And so I ended up immediately, without being asked to refund, I just refunded the person and said, don't ever speak to me again. Because you can't do that to people. You can't, I don't do readings for people to spy on somebody for you or to look up their personal information. I'm doing it to try to help you figure something out spiritually and emotionally. And after I had to deal with that one last horrible customer, I was like, I'm not doing this ever again. Not publicly, not for sale. I might do some kind of like divination topic stuff or small like general read at some point on this channel, much smaller than the ones I used to do. I might use the Sufi Oracle deck or something, but I'm never, ever, 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 ever again going to get into like a business about it or make regular divination content because it's just very clear to me that the market has become horrible and immoral. Both customers and so-called readers and some healers as well, some so-called healers are doing horrible things. That doesn't mean that spirituality isn't real. It is. But it's like when, you get priests who genuinely believe in God and you get some that molest boys. You get readers who genuinely want to give you spiritual help, and then you get others who are just trying to sell your private information or who are into some demonic shit. So just be careful out there, folks. I will never make a big thing with this channel of trying to make it into a big business because while I thought at one point years ago that it was worth being paid for my time for it, there's not a price on peace, and I don't want that energy from what's going on in the marketplace for this sort of thing anywhere near me. It's just gross. So that's my reason for why. I don't believe all divination is inherently sinful, and I don't believe it's fake. I think that there's reality to it and that it can be very spiritual healing when it's done in the right way. But unfortunately, most places that seem to be trying to cultivate that sort of thing, to my eyes, to my shrewd eyes, seem to be involved in something kind of ugly, and I want no part of it. So that's why I don't sell readings anymore and never will again, and why this channel is not going to be a business.